It's another edition, episode 3 of In the Huddle here on the Michigan Sports Radio. I'm Nate Wangler. That is Jackson Hayden. We've been doing our conference previews leading up to the 2026 regular season. And Jackson, this week, it is finally starting to reach a fevered pitch. We just got through dead week, right? We got through the area where there's no formal practices. There might be some workouts or some film or some other things that are going on, beyond me. But now is when the rubber finally meets the road. Now is when we step down on the gas pedal and we get ready for week 1. And I had a conversation recently with Steve Project, the Sports Project radio show here in Grand Rapids, and he loves covering the high school scene. He loves covering the local colleges, and he shares the same belief that you and I share, which is these schools, these teams, they deserve the just recognition that they have earned, many of them, and everybody deserves recognition at this level. But we've talked about a lot of competitive conferences leading up to it, and some of the teams that I previewed in my top 10, or I guess my 10 teams that I find most intriguing on that radio show, came from this conference in particular, the OK Red Conference, which we understand year after year is going to be an absolute drag out, beat down. Who knows who's going to emerge from it, because you have a lot of teams who are very capable, but rarely do you have one that stands out amongst the rest. Rockford was for the longest time. They had a reign of terror over the OK Red, but the demographics have changed. Hudsonville has won it back-to-back years. We talked about East Kentwood in the kind of underdogs, in how they are kind of overlooked in the state of Michigan. Many teams in this conference that could potentially make a run, or even more so, maybe bring back that first state title for Division I since 2008 here to the west side of the state of Michigan. So again, I'll start off the way that I have with all the other conferences. You look at the OK Red, who emerges from the pack here this season?
I mean, this is another one of those toss-up conferences. I mean, it feels like you could just pencil in Hudsonville or you can pencil in a Rockford, but who's going to be this year's Caledonia? Who's going to be this year's, random team that comes out of nowhere and upsets a couple of teams, and all of a sudden they find themselves playing for a conference championship in the final 2 weeks of the season, right? I'm going to go with, Hudsonville or a Rockford. I think those are your two favorites. And it feels like almost a toss up. East Kentwood, they're right there too, right? Those are the main three. You can count Grandville on the outside looking in as well. Caledonia is another one of those schools that they stay healthy. They could also be right up there towards the top, but somebody has to lose and somebody has to win. So this is another one of those SEC like conferences, right? You're going to see over half of this conference most likely in the playoffs. Just who's gonna come out in those big moments? We saw Hudsonville with a Hail Mary win last year over East Kentwood. It's things like that it takes to win these types of games.
And it's interesting you mentioned Caledonia. Now, right out of the gate, I want to say hello to the people that I know at Cal. I've worked there the last handful of years as a broadcaster, and in my early days with that program was the Derek Pennington era of Caledonia. They haven't won that state championship since 2005. However, they did compete against a sophomore Bryce Underwood in Belleville at Ford Field once upon a time. They ended up losing that matchup, but they produced a lot of great football players. But that's old news. The new news, the now news, is Whitney Bell. And I got the chance to work, not alongside him, but on the broadcast last year. And I can tell you this much: intensity is not lacking with this program, and he is very much built from that same cloth that many of those older, that coaching staff that was around when Derek Pennington was there, many of those elements are still there, and they've kept many things the same from those teams. The only issue is, again, as you've mentioned, sometimes staying healthy has been a problem. I think about someone like Bryce Backus. Now, I got to see Bryce when he was in junior varsity, before he even got to the varsity level, and he has a Division I prototype type body when it comes to a quarterback. He's tall, he's strong, he can deliver downfield, he can stand there and deliver, but he can also run a little bit too, which I know is important for Caledonia. They love their dual threat quarterbacks. What do you see from the Scots coming into this year?
I mean, they got to stay healthy. I said it earlier and say it again. I mean, they've got two talented receivers and a very high quality tight end as well. And those are great pieces to have if you're like you said, a Division I archetype quarterback, right? So this is a guy, as long as he can stay healthy, they did really well in their first half of the season when he was healthy. Second, he goes down, Caledonia season goes with it, right? So they lack of offense was a real issue last year, and a lack of offense is something you cannot have in the OK Red. You need to be able to outshoot a Rockford, a Hudsonville, a Grandville, an East Kentwood, right? Even a Jenison, a Grand Haven will give you a run for their money. Really, anybody at top to bottom. So if they can stay healthy, I think this is a team that we could see back in the playoffs and maybe trying to fight for a district championship again.
Sometimes they say expectations are simply preset disappointments. When you set big, lofty expectations and you don't meet them, it can really come back to bite you. And, for some athletes, the expectation obviously is to go out and win, but there are moments in your career that will stick with you forever, individual moments. And for the next team that I want to talk about, East Kentwood, that moment obviously came last year for Hudsonville when they beat them on that Hail Mary at the end of the game. I guess at the professional ranks, think of someone like Cam Newton who didn't dive on the fumble in the Super Bowl. Single moments like that, they stick with you. And for the players who have another season and another crack at it for EK, they are living with the memory of that game, of that moment. And now they're coming into the season equipped with that. East Kentwood is talented. The expectation is that they will win. Who stands out the most? And I guess what are your overall expectations when it comes to EK?
I mean, this defense is what stands out to me. Top to bottom, this defense has collegiate commits all around the place. I mean, talk about how many times do you watch a Big Ten game and you could probably find at least one East Kentwood starter in that game, right? I mean, as a Badger fan, I know I've seen it quite a bit over the last 10 years or so, but this is this is a team that's got some good direction behind them with Ty Spencer at the helm, right? It won 4 state titles with Detroit Martin Luther King. Defense is what East Kentwood is known for. But their offensive line is going to be the big key for their success this year, right? They do return their Division II commit, Stephen Jones, who collected 827 yards last year as a junior. But other than that, this offense is quite young, just returning 3 starters. They do lose their quarterback, Cade Kaufman, who is now at Michigan State. So how are you going to be able to respond to that? Their defense, unfortunately, did give up 40, or they lost by 40 to Detroit Catholic Central last year in the semifinal. So their offense will need to keep up, right? They weren't too far away from beating a Rockford, and again, just a last second throw lost them to Hudsonville. So this is a place where the defense needs to stay the standard and their offense needs to follow suit.
I made a video about this next team, and I have been amazed because we live in 2026 where honesty and in being real and truthful, that's considered not normal anymore. People like the pom-poms. They like sunshine, rainbows, and cookies for everybody. No one wants to be real. No one wants to address the elephant in the room. But I have been almost perplexed by how honest people have enjoyed me being in these videos. I think it's because maybe some of them feel as if they want to say the same thing, but they don't have the platform necessarily to say it. And when it came to this school in particular, that's where it really came into play. I was almost brutally honest about Grand Haven. I'm like, listen, there's not a lot to go by here. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's culture. I don't know if it's buy-in. It could be a lot of different things when it comes to Grand Haven. So it's really tough to preview what a season can be for this team. But give it your best shot. What do you see out of Grand Haven this year?
Well, how are you going to be defined anything other than a beach town, right? And if you think beach town, you think of relaxing, right? You can't relax on the football field, especially in the OK Red, right? So under the 4 seasons of Andrew Bidenbender, right? This is a team that did grab an upset win against Grandville last season, which, according to some sources, feels like it has rejuvenated that program. And if that's what they need to be able to come into the season, be a 500 ball team, I mean that's great. Or even just get more wins than the year before. They haven't had a winning season since 2019. In fact, have only won just 9 games since 2019. They are led by KV Cornstra, who returns for his final season before going to Fair State next year. But they did take a major blow to as Andrew Williamson went down, who blew out his other knee. He's a Grand Valley commit last year, went down early in the season. and now goes down with the other knee. They do have a very, very unfortunate start to the season, as they have to face Hudsonville, East Kentwood, and Rockford in 3 straight games once conference play opens out. And that's not easy to build confidence in one of those. But if they can come out, maybe upset one of those teams of those first 3 weeks, I think that's the confidence builder that you need to go into the rest of the season thinking, hey, we could do a little bit more than what we expect.
Man, it feels like the Lions. They lose their starting center yesterday, and it's like we haven't even gotten like to week 1 yet. Like, how does that happen? But injuries, listen, that's a part of it. But again, this goes back to what I've said about Grand Haven. It's not that you don't produce football players. You do. Now, how do you string that all together and come up with a winning season? That's the big question. Transitioning to the other side of that coin, Grandville is the next conversation. Now, they get some help back in their backfield. We know they're wing T dogs, right? This is what Grandville does. You know, they beat you down. They're big. They're physical on the offensive line. A lot to like about Grandville, but, kind of a toss up some years. What do you see out of the Bulldogs this season?
I mean, consistency is what I'm looking for. But from this Bulldogs team, I think they need to start strong and stay strong. I mean, again, this is a tough conference. And honestly, it's hard to compete with that wing T style offense at the level that they're at. I mean, you see Unity Christian do it. Now they're at a lower division. Grandville has had success in the past, but once they get into the playoffs, they haven't made much of a run since then, right? So 2 years ago, it was a strong finish compared to a rough start. Last year, it was flipped. Is this the year that they finally take the best of both worlds and keep it consistent throughout the year? They do return DJ Hardiman, the senior running back, who's going into his 3rd straight season as a starter. He really stepped up last year after the man in front of him went down with a season-ending injury. One part of the game that really stands out to me for Hardiman is he had a 160-yard game against Cass Tech and then another 154-yard game against East Kentwood. I mean, against those two schools, you'd be pretty comfortable handing the ball off to him, right? So last district championship appearance was 2024. They haven't won one since 2016, and their last state title was another 20 years earlier, right, in 1996. So again, putting everything together, can this be finally the climax of this program, and can Eric Stiegel finally get over that district championship hump and get his first since 2016?
The reason why I don't necessarily love preseason rankings is because all of those calculations are basically based off of what did you do last year? And that's not always the best marker for what is going to happen this season, especially in high school, because again, it's different in terms of in the pros, you have these long contracts and you have players coming back, so you know what you get. In college, it's a little bit different with the recruiting. In high school, it's completely different because if you graduate a really good class in front of you, you have to pick up where they left off. Hudsonville has set the bar for themselves with what they've done the last couple of years. So the belief is coming into this year, once again, they are going to win, and they're going to look really good under Brent Sandy, who got his recognition from the Detroit Lions, of all places, in week 9 of last year. But the Eagles are good. They have a set culture. What do you see from them in 2026?
Keep on keeping on. I mean, they did lose a couple of big offensive pieces. That was really a big key into some of their wins last year. 11-1 season, won the district championship game against Rockford before ultimately losing to East Kentwood. So the Kentwood there did get their, they did get the final laugh there. But I mean, this is a high-powered offense. You're going to see them run the ball all up and down the field. They're very quick. This is a school that has produced a ton of talent at both the professional level on a multitude of different sports. And I think they're definitely the clear favorite going forward.
I'm going to let you just kind of not get up on your soapbox necessarily, but I'm going to let you ramble a little bit on this next team because you are uniquely familiar with this group. That is the Jenison Wildcats. Now, you work at Jenison. Josh Lucas into another year. He has proven himself. He has hardware to his name. It's been cool to see Jenison turn things around in one way or another because they look more competitive in football now than maybe what they've been in a long stretch of time. When you look at the Wildcats, I know you have a personal familiarity with this team. Just go ahead, overview of what you think they could do this season.
This isn't your mama and dad's Jenison Wildcats. I'll tell you that. This will be my first season covering them, but I've gotten to know a lot of the people throughout the athletic department, a lot of these coaches. I work with Josh Lucas at the school as well. So He's in his third season, and again, is not that far removed from winning a state championship against Unity Christian, right?
Mm.
Their last playoff appearance was 2020, but outside of the COVID year, it was 2018, right? And that was a team that was also on the rebuild before a coaching change, and now they're redoing it again, right? So they they have to play the Hudsonville and Rockford in the final 3 weeks of the season. It feels like a year that they could finally get over that 500 hump, something they have not done since 2020. I believe that this is a year that they win the games that they're supposed to win, and then this is a year they start to close those gaps against the Hudsonville, against the EK, against the Rockford, right? Those are the games. That's going to be that's going to be the real deciding factor. I bet you go into those final few weeks of the season, and Jenison's right up there in the top three, maybe top four, right? And then it's how are they going to come out and play against Hudsonville and Rockford? Really, this is an offense that they're pretty solid all the way around on both defense and offense. The running back is maybe a part that's a little bit of a question mark, but we'll see how that turns out. They do lose a special teams player, one of the top kickers in the state, and Cohen Chatfield. He kicked a 48-yard walk-off field goal last year to beat West Ottawa. So again, it's winning those close games. It's closing the gaps on those top teams in the conference. And this is a team that I think could make a second straight playoff appearance, and potentially this year they don't draw Hudsonville first round. And that's kind of the tough thing about being where they're at, right? So
Just beaming with positivity. I can tell that you're hopeful for what this year will be for Jenison. Let's get into Rockford. Now, I know Brock will be happy us talking about the Rockford Rams. I know we've already spoken glowingly about this team. They've been a consistent power, Jackson. They have been some of the best that this side of the state has had to offer really since their last state championship in 2008. You know, the only issue is, again, when it comes to the very end for Rockford, is finishing. That is the biggest question. But again, this year they return some help on the line. They have some of their best downfield threats that are available back to them. Obviously, we talk about Brent Cummings. He's been outstanding. His seventh season with this team's been really, really good. When you look at Rockford, I think the understanding is they're going to win, but win how much and how far can they go? I guess I'm curious, what do you believe the Rams will do this year?
I think again, it's similar to Hudsonville. I think they keep on keeping on, and it's gonna be how do they not lose to Hudsonville this year, right? It's the Hudsonville kind of seems to be that new team to beat, right? For years, it was this Rockford team. Now Hudsonville is that team, right? So how does Rockford get over that Hudsonville gap? It's been a couple of years where they beat it since they've beaten them in the regular season. They did take care of business, or actually they didn't, but they they do return a big a lineman up at the front there, a big 280 man or pound lineman there who's committed to GVSU, right? The receiving core is back, so it's looking for their first district championship since 2023, which feels like a drought for them. It was kind of similar to what we were talking about with GR Catholic Central the other day, right? So haven't won a state championship since 2008. I don't know if they're to that or if they're state championship primed, but I think this is the year that they finally get over that district championship hump.
And getting into our final team in the conference here in the OK Red. Listen, you can't have a state of the art, one of the best football stadiums at the high school level in the state of Michigan without somehow finding a way to put together a team that can go out and win consistently. That's not to bash West Ottawa. I'm not here to bash anybody because I do think they are getting better. And again, as we said about some of the other programs, I think about South Christian, and all the close games that they lost last year. West Ottawa felt the same exact way. It's not that they weren't able to hang around with teams, they just couldn't finish when it mattered the most. And we saw that a lot with West Ottawa. All signs are that they're improving. All signs are they're moving in the right direction. But when you look at West Ottawa, what do you see this year?
Well, first off, that stadium, I'm very excited to visit. I don't think Jenison goes there this year, but later this fall, I do get to be the PA announcer for the marching band prelims that are hosted there. So pretty excited to go see that stadium. An upper deck. How many? You don't even see that in Michigan at the high school level. I mean, is there even another one in this area? Maybe Rockford, if you want to count that as an upper deck, but no, I mean, they haven't had a winning season in 8 years. They haven't made the district championship game since 2017. They had a number of one possession losses last year. Talking about that Jenison one where they lost to that walk-off field goal But they win those one possession games last year, and they're a team north of 500. So this year, it's winning those games that they're supposed to win by those one possession, and maybe you can pull an upset in there too. And I think you find your way back into the playoffs. It's hard, especially in this conference, but it feels like you can get to the 5, sometimes 4 win mark, and you're a playoff team in this state.
It did fascinate me when the World Cup was here in the United States, watching European fans go to high school football stadiums and being like, this is high school? In what world is this high school? And sometimes I wish they would have come to this area and gone to West Ottawa, because it would have been the same exact reaction. How is this a high school stadium? I don't get this. But again, there's a lot of other good reasons why they have that facility. It'll take a good stadium any way you can use it.
It's a beautiful campus.
I'm
overall.
saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's so many different uses for a big, beautiful stadium like that. So anyways, that is our look at the OK Red. I will say, Jackson, what makes it exciting is the parity in this conference. There are some conferences where it's like, well, I don't know if that's a guarantee, but it's as close to a guarantee as you can get, maybe without having one. The OK Red is not that. The OK Red is far different. They are competitive top to bottom, so this is going to be another exciting year. But that'll wrap up episode number 3 here on In the Huddle. Again, we are getting closer and closer to the regular season. I'm going to do what I always do on this show. Click the link in bio. Go check out all of our different social media pages. We will be posting short forms, individual schools, right? So we'll be cutting them up and posting those videos. But we're also going to be doing a bunch of other stuff as well, including some fun social media stuff. I'll actually be heading to a weight training session for one of the schools that we've talked about. So we're going to get some behind-the-scenes footage as well. And again, we're going to continue to get involved in different ways in the social media sphere. But for now, I'm Nate Wangler. That's Jackson Hyden. This has been another edition of In the Huddle. We'll see you next time for episode 4 here on Michigan Sports Radio.
Located in Rockford, Phoenix Roofing and Exteriors is your family-owned and operated roofing experts, proudly serving our West Michigan neighbors with integrity. From roof replacements and repairs to full siding, gutters, and exterior upgrade, we got you covered. Visit thephoenixroof.com today.